Located at 154 Iriarty Road, Unit 4 and 5 in Tamuning behind Royal Bigs. Sidelines, a hidden gem with nothing but great things to offer. Great atmosphere, great food, top shelf drinks, and a great team. What are we waiting for? Let the fun begin at Sidelines Bar and Grill. Open daily from 3 p.m. to 2 a.m. See you there.
Check out the newest hydro and garden center to hit Guam, Crop King Hydro. We have a huge selection of plant nutrients, soils, hydroponic mediums, organic pest control pumps, plant support, tools, and so much more. Call 635-4769. 635-GROW. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 6 at the Dededo Satina Mall, right across from Payless and Paradise Fitness. For whatever you grow, think Crop King Hydro. Crop King Hydro.
Listen to The Point anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Find your favorite stations like The Point and discover more. Music stations, local and trusted news sources, sports talk and team coverage, plus today's biggest podcasts. Find it all on the Odyssey app. AUDACY. Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times, Jose, and I'm going to keep on saying it. It's the way I start the show here. It tells you that this show is about the United States Constitution, freedom, liberty, conservatism, and related subjects. If that's what you're interested, boy, you are in the right place. If that's not what you're interested in, boy, are you in the right place, because you need some warning, and that's what you're going to get here for the next couple hours. I start out with Zemi Ikotny. Zemi Ikotny used to be a really good feature of this show back in the days when both newspapers were writing hard-edged editorials. But the Daily News lost its edge long ago. They keep putting stuff on their editorial page that really doesn't pass muster as editorials. It's recast news stories, softball comments, feel-good pages, etc. And the Post just gave up completely a couple months ago. Here's what we got from the Daily News today. The November 8 election brought a good mix of fresh faces and seasoned veterans.
Wait, what?
Oh, in the beginning, it wasn't fresh faces. It was only familiar faces. In governor's office, we're guaranteed an experienced leader, no matter who won the race. Governor Leon Guerrero guided the island through the pandemic and the economic disaster that unfolded as our chief tourism markets closed their borders. Well, for once, I'm going to compliment them on the use of language, Jose, because they used the right word. Governor Leon Guerrero guided the island. Okay? So when you're talking about guiding something, you're usually talking about the descent, like a glide path or something like that. You don't guide something to higher altitudes. So she did indeed guide the island through the economic disaster, guided us right to the bottom of it. And we saw from looking at a couple of other jurisdictions like Florida and Texas that you don't have to kill your economy to deal with the virus. Going on with Leon Guerrero, now she will need to continue working as the island struggles to recover economically. Like the rest of the nation, we're facing high prices at the grocery stores and the gas pumps, and our power bills are at record highs. We will need good jobs. We will need affordable places to live. We will need to be able to compete for housing with incoming military members who have generous housing allowances. We need all these things knowing that federal aid that flowed freely in the beginning of the pandemic has dried up. We have a new delegate to Congress. We need him to be successful in getting Guam's voice heard among our national lawmakers. Well, at least if not our voice heard, at least our letters read. We need to be treated equally as Americans to be included in federal programs. You know, we got to keep beating this drum, don't we? And we got to be treated equally like all the rest of the Americans. Everybody else pays their income tax into the IRS. Why should we be different? We have a right to pay our income taxes to the national government instead of keeping them here on the island and squandering them ourselves. And we don't have any, if we're going to get Section 30 money, every other state should get Section 30 money, right?
That's between the lines.
Yeah. The people's voices were very clear in the run-up to the election. Guam is concerned about crime and about illegal drugs. We've seen repeat offenders released from prison, and we've seen parolees and people on pretrial release reoffend. We regularly watch and share surveillance videos showing bold thieves victimizing island residents and businesses, except, of course, for the house of the chief of the police, who is subject to routine patrol checks. We know that we have a problem with crystal methamphetamine, and we often have problems with alcohol. We want to feel safe, and right now a lot of us don't. A third of the 37th legislature is made up of first-time senators. We need them to remember that they were representing us, the people, the voters. We don't need theatrics or legislation that has been copied from other jurisdictions. Oh, heaven forbid that we would copy legislation from other jurisdictions.
I don't understand that mindset.
It's stupid.
Makes no sense.
You know, these automobiles running around here with these round things, right? We are just copying something that they're using in the mainland. They put wheels on their cars over there. We should not just blindly put wheels on our cars because they do it.
I agree.
We should invent something that's far superior to the wheel, right?
Okay. And this is the opinion page.
Yeah.
This is an editorial.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just dumb because, you know, the art of being a good legislative draftsman is the art of being a good copycatter. But you got to know what to copy. You can't just copy any old thing and throw it in.
Yeah, we're not talking removing another state's name and just place it with Guam. You have to put it compatible with the existing statutes and laws.
Exactly. But, you know, there are very smart people all over the country that draft model laws, that draft laws for various state legislatures. Now, what they're really talking about here, you know exactly what they're talking about. The Texas law.
Exactly.
The so-called heartbeat law.
Now, a smart editorial would say, don't copy Alaska's laws on overbilling for heating fuel.
Yeah.
That makes a little more sense.
Yeah. But just this blanket, we don't need theatrics or legislation that's been copied from other jurisdictions. We need reasonable solutions for our island. And I talked a couple of times about the Uniform Commercial Code, which we have screwed up royally, which is copied from, you know, not only other jurisdictions, but from the uniform law commissioners. And we've turned our back on it, and it's hurting us. Going on, too often legislative hearings are punctuated by agency representatives who rightfully point out that good ideas can easily turn into unfunded mandates. Now, when you introduce a statute, when you introduce a bill, if there's an appropriation section in the bill, it's got to go to the Committee on Finance. regardless of what the bill deals with. So if you want the bill to go to a substantive committee, you introduce the bill without the funding. If you get the bill passed, then the next step is to get the funding. But you got to know something in order to say stuff like that. You can't just sit down and type stuff because you think you know what you're talking about. Laws that are unenforced and sometimes unenforceable or conflict with laws on the books get passed. We need our lawmakers to carefully research their proposals before introducing them. And I go along with that. And once they do introduce legislation, they should be prepared to stand behind it and also stand in front of it and defend it. For those elected to serve on the Board of Ed, we need our schools fixed. The situation at Ocean View with its desanitation rating is not acceptable. We should move it up to at least as D+, Jose. The school's vice principal has said that many of the problems during the recent Department of Public Health and Social Service inspections were maintenance issues beyond the school's control. Certainly the issues are not beyond the control of the Board of Ed. Getting them fixed should be top priority for our elected representatives on the board. And finally, the Consolidated Commission on Utilities, the elected policy-making board for the Power and Floridian Water Works. We trust our commissioners to guide us forward into a future with cleaner energy, cleaner water, and reasonable rates, which is exactly what they're doing if you've been paying attention. They have done an admirable job on that regard. We thank all those who ran for office and all those who took the time to vote. All right, so much for that. I have an editorial here from Candid that I should have come forward with quite a while ago, but there's no time like the present. It's a long editorial. I'm going to just summarize. Starts out as previously reported, Guam Memorial Hospital is paying a private company with close ties to Governor LG's campaign a commission on revenues it appears the hospital was already collecting prior to the company's help. The most significant portion of this revenue, or what GMH refers to as payer mix, comes from what's known as the 3 M's, Medicare, Medicaid, and MIP. Medicare and Medicaid are federally funded programs that provide health insurance for elderly and the poor. A June 30, 2020 Department of Justice news release should be required reading for GMH officials responsible for paying vendors, especially if all or any part of such payments originate from Medicare. Here are excerpts from that release. 2 owners of Guam Medical Transport were sentenced to prison terms today for their roles in a healthcare fraud and money laundering scheme that resulted in a loss to the U.S. of approximately $10.8 million, one of the largest single Medicare ambulance fraud cases ever prosecuted. This was this transportation company that was taking people to dialysis appointments when transportation wasn't warranted and then charging the U.S. government for it. That was Clifford Shoemake, Kimberly Clyde, also known as Casey Connor. They're going to serve 71 and 63 months in prison. According to their admissions at the plea hearing, from approximately March 11, 2010 to approximately March 21, 2014, the defendants engaged in a conspiracy to defraud Medicare and TRICARE by submitting claims for reimbursement for medically unnecessary ambulance services that GMH provided to customers. The article goes on to say, a team of federal investigators from a multi-agency task force worked together in gathering evidence that led to prison terms for the 2 owners of Guam Medical Transport. Volumes of evidence are filed with the district court. Question: if under federal law, only the governor is solely authorized to approve expenditures for services related to COVID, did the governor approve any federal funds to pay MedHealth Solutions? Months after the pandemic began, several senators called on the governor to account for the expenditures of every penny of federal funds. The governor never did provide our legislature with any acceptable accounting of the funds. Unfortunately, the governor chose not to. Even worse, the governor did not have to, since she had the sole power to spend those federal monies. So authorities need to ask if the governor approved any federal monies paid to MedHealth Solutions, and if she did, were these monies spent on services authorized by federal law? Specifically, was it lawful for GMH to pay a private company a commission on revenues the hospital already demonstrated an ability to collect prior to the revenue cycle management contract? These and other questions GMH officials refuse to answer deserve a thorough inquiry. GMH is giving away millions of dollars each year to this private contractor, which has close ties to the governor and her campaign. These are millions of dollars that instead could purchase medicine. The old adage, where there's smoke, there's fire, may certainly apply here. It's time for the Federal Bureau of Investigation to take a look at what's happening at GMH. And then there's a nice puff piece here in today's Post. GMH contractor touts increased collections amid complaint to FBI.
Of course.
Uh-huh.
And it only comes out today.
Yeah, but finally the Post is picking up on it. It's been floating around out there for 3 weeks now.
Before the election.
Thanks to Troy and thanks to Ken. And now they're finally getting around to covering it. And this is how they start the story. While no updates have been made public on a reported complaint filed with the FBI over a contract to collect bills owed to Guam Memorial, the contractor providing the service has released a report detailing the money is collected and the overall financial benefit has given so far the island's only public hospital. MedHealth Solutions provides a wide range of revenue cycle services to the hospital that focused on improving the hospital's financial operational performance. According to the company's annual report, GMH contracted MedHealth Solutions to conduct services such as patient collections, pre-registration for scheduled patients' arrival, third-party follow-ups, etc. In May 2021, the gross collection baseline was $77,200,000. GMH was in the red, $643,825 in gross collections. That was a month before MedHealth began its contract. In June 2021, GMH collected $1.4 million over the baseline. The report stated that the company trains developing inter-level billers, coders, follow-ups up accounts, receivables specialists, patient registration representatives, etc. Now, but Ken Leon Guerrero, they actually reached out to somebody other than someone in the government, said he doesn't believe the contract's on the up and up. Leon Guerrero filed a citizen's complaint against the governor with the FBI. The complainant said he's hopeful an anti-corruption investigation under the RICO Act is launched into the financial dealings of GMH as it relates to the contract. He stood outside FBI headquarters on Sunday. The complaint was filed and explained why he hopes the FBI investigation alleged government corruption he said is occurring behind closed doors, and why he believes GMH and the governor are not spending federal relief funds as intended. I'm bringing my paperwork and walking through why I believe federal funds are being diverted from their intended use. That's the reason why the federal government would be interested, Leon Guerrero said. When Medicare and Medicaid funds are paid, that's to pay the bills at GMH. So the institution can continue to care for the people, not taking a cut off the top to give a politically connected insider because he exists. That's why I believe this could be a RICO investigation. That's my hope. The unsuccessful senatorial candidate contended the government's contract with MedHealth Solutions is, quote, shady. They contracted to collect money. They get a percentage of everything over $7.2 million, even though historically they collect over $8 million. So there's a problem right there. They're contracted to do training to GMH staff. Well, don't we have people at GMH that we pay a lot of money to train? They're being paid to oversee collections. So in other words, they're getting paid to manage GMH accounting department when it comes to collecting funds. This contract in place, the majority of money being collected, we do not need to hire anybody to collect, etc. The contract set a baseline amount for collections based on past performance, and MedHealth Solutions, per its agreement with GMH, is entitled to compensation only when collections exceed the baseline, meaning the business won't be paid if revenue received is the same level prior to the contract being executed. Leon Guerrero said the agreement amounts to roughly $4 million to $6 million per year being funneled out of GMH's revenue stream because of the contract with MedHealth Solutions. The Daily Post reached out to the governor's communications director, Crystal Paco San Augustine, regarding the allegations that Governor Leon Guerrero played a role in the alleged misleading dealing of federal funds. Paco San Augustine was quick to label the allegations fake news.
Ooh, is she MAGA?
Uh-huh. Comment from GMH was also sought, but GMH's response was limited, confirming and referencing the contract with MedHealth Solutions. In May 2021, GMH contracted MedHealth Solutions to assist with and enhance GMH's process in capturing and collecting patient revenue in accordance with the Healthcare Financial Management Association. In addition, MedHealth provides guidance and training to GMH staff to develop GMH's capabilities to sustain its revenue cycle management. Hospital spokesperson Cindy Hansen said. The contract was procured through a request for proposals, which was thoroughly reviewed and approved by the Office of the Attorney General, Hansen said. But the Attorney General said, yeah, we looked at the papers. We're not talking about the execution of the contract. And that's what all the complaints are about, not the contract. But that's, there's a certain amount of comfort that we sent it to the Attorney General. The AG vetted it, and he gave it a passing grade. Therefore, shut up.
I wonder if this is fake news, too.
Yeah. The contract provides that MedHealth will receive 12% for amounts collected above GMH's projected monthly collections. MedHealth's collections are contingent on payments exceeding the estimated projections. Leon Guerrero said he's in receipt of documents received through the Freedom of Information Act that he said supports his assertions. I've already gotten a lot of documents myself through FOIAs. The rest of the documents, I am still waiting. That's why I am filing the motion to the Supreme Court, because the government has decided to not give me everything I'm asking for. And these specific documents as these documents are released, we're going to learn more about what's happening behind closed doors. He said he decided to file a citizen's complaint days after a package surfaced on social media over the weekend containing documents including check payments pertaining to GMH's contract with MedHealth. The allegations contained in the package stated the money is being stolen from the sick and poor treated at GMH on an average of $350,000 a month as a result of payments made to MedHealth. This package contains the illegal collection at GMH from sick patients. There are a few hundred pages. Attached is a snapshot of the contract, ownership, purchase orders, invoices, etc. So finally, somebody picked it up, and it's the Post. All right, I've got to take a short break here. When I come back, I've got Harvey Egna, who wants to talk about GMH.
Come try Guam's original Chamorro restaurant with Pica's Best 5 years running. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus to naktak, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet hamburgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña and Grand Plaza Tumon location. Call their Hagåtña location at 479-2652 for reservations.
Gas is expensive, so let the bank come to you. Through our remote deposit capture, you can deposit your checks into your account from your phone. And with our Dynamite Bank Pacific Visa debit card, you can use your money anytime, anywhere. It's the perfect combo.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Equal housing lender. Member FDIC. Crank it up.
And now, back to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the one radio show politicians don't want you to listen to. Call now, 888-TALK. That's 888-8255.
Okay, so here we are. I've got Harvey Egna on the phone and wants to talk about the hospital. Harvey,
Hey, Bob. Thanks for taking my call.
If you happen to have any sick jokes about the hospital, just leave those to me, okay? It's kind of part of my job description. So.
No, that's not kind of my personality to do that.
Okay, go ahead, Harvey.
Okay, I've also been looking into this contract. I've examined the contract, and actually the contract has been recently extended. And I've posted a letter to. I've emailed a letter to the Post today. I'm not sure whether they'll publish it or not, but it has quite a few more details than they published in today's paper. But first of all, MedHealth has not an invalid business license. Their business license has been expired. So they're operating under a contract and collecting funds from GMH, and they're not a legally licensed business, nor are they a legally licensed collection agency. In the contract is a provision actually for them to do collections at 30%. Whether they're actually doing that right now, I'm not sure, but they are not actually licensed, which is a further step in the process to operate a business of that stature. Requires approval from the Banking Commission. They do not have a collection agency license, and that would be at a 30% contingency. But, as a consultant myself in this business, I will tell you that training the hospital staff in collections is a 1-month job, and it would be $8,000 to $10,000. You're in and out, and that's it. This is outrageous to charge, first of all, a contingency fee that equates to millions of dollars. It's a downright ripoff of the hospital, and then I'm not one usually using a word like that easily, but this should be a 1-month job. Skills training, negotiations, helping the customer find sources of revenue to pay the hospital. Full-time, $8,000 to $10,000. That's it. You're in and out. A consultant shouldn't be sharing revenue with a client. I think that's really unethical, actually. And this lengthy relationship where they're collecting revenue based on a threshold. Talk about a gravy contract. I wish I had it.
Yeah, it's especially when you're collecting a contingency fee on money that is being paid by Medicare and Medicaid.
And there's another angle to it, Bob.
Sure.
They're touting in the paper that they had such great results in June and July. And if you know anything about the collection business, it's very seasonal. In June and July is when a lot of people are getting their tax refunds, right? And a lot of people choose to settle their debts at that time. And what GMH is also probably doing at that time is garnishing those tax refunds over at Rev and Tax. So there's probably a bump in their collection stream at that time that, of course, MedHealth has nothing to do with, just like the Medicare and Medicaid, but they're reaping the benefit because it's coming in over the threshold. So they're also benefiting from a process previously set up by GMH to garnish tax returns, right, to pay hospital bills, but they actually have nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
So there's another revenue stream they're tapping into, and this is millions of dollars that the hospital, we don't have a rich hospital, and they're really hurting. Millions of dollars coming out of their pockets to something that is really a $6,000 to $10,000 1 month job. It is really an outrageous contract. I've never heard of a contract like this in my career.
Harvey, there's this rumor that MedHealth is going to go into the fishing business. But in order to get things set up the way they need, they're going to need a lot of shotguns and barrels.
I don't know.
I'll spell it out a little bit. In other words, the contract they have right now is like shooting fish in a barrel. You can't miss.
No, they can't. They can't. And the contract, I examined the contract. It's signed off by lots of high-ranking folks at the hospital. It's signed off by the Attorney General. It's signed off by the governor. It's signed off at the highest levels in the territory. Somebody's getting really rich off not really doing too much.
Kind of looks like that. But I guess the good news here is we've got Ken, we've got you, we've got Candid News, and finally the Post seems to be coming out of its hibernation, and maybe we'll pay a little bit of attention to this.
Yeah, it'll be good to see the PDN pick it up too. And I did a FOIA to the hospital. I kind of knew what the answer would be, but I asked them for copies of the business licenses and collection licenses, and they answered my FOIA and they said, we don't have those documents.
Yeah.
So Guam is doing business with an entity and paying them, and this entity isn't even licensed as a basic business.
Yeah.
Their license actually is expired. Their license is expired. And some other poor guy who wants to start a grocery has to go through all kind of hoops before he can open his business, and this one's kind of sailing along, billing the government for millions of dollars, and doesn't even have the right paperwork to operate their business. It's really a sad, and I don't think sad is the word, it's more of an outrageous situation. We should be outrageous taxpayers.
It's outrageous, out Santos, out Pangolinan, out Leon Guerrero. It's about as far out as you can get. Yeah, well, Harvey, keep blowing that whistle, okay?
Yeah, okay, thank you.
We'll be listening. Thank you, sir. Yeah, Harvey Egna.
I think Leon Guerrero's all in, Bob.
I think so, yeah. I think she is. All right, I got somebody else in the green room here that I want to pick up before I go into the card. That would be... Hanging on for just a second here. I guess
they just want to remind us that we have no say.
Yes, of course. Okay, so
till February at least.
That's true. So let's take a look at the card. Of course, we start out with Paul Zerzan and systemic racism, and then I got another entry on the Public Law 36-34, but it's just the Visitors Bureau, who never ever gets it right. Why should we expect them to? And then on the card, I've got colonizer Robert Underwood, Robert the Colonizer, versus Felix again. And then I've got a flightless rooster versus lame ducks. I've got Democrats and Repeat versus Doug. Therese Tetlahi versus Opacity. Now, opacity is a $3 word that is the opposite of transparency. If something is not transparent, if you can't see through it, it's opaque. And then we've got Therese versus the national government. And then we got one here that's a little kind of a hot item. Chamorros versus Chukis. So pretty interesting card today. I'm just going to show you the picture one more time. You remember Paul Zerzan telling everybody that this rice is actually red, and now we got canceled for that because the narrative is the rice is red, even though the color of the rice is orange. Public Law 36-34, we've got the notice for the GVB meeting tomorrow, And item 4 is old business. Item 5 is new business. You want to know what old business they're going to discuss?
Sure.
So do I, because it's not in their agenda. Same way with new business, making everything that they do at the meeting void. Okay, Underwood versus colonizer Underwood versus Felix again. And Underwood said, winning is easy, losing is tough. I guess he should know. And he gives us some autobiographical information there. And then he has a suggestion. He talks about, people, the way people react after they've lost. Then he has a suggestion. Perhaps the way to get closure on these races is to announce the winners when all of the candidates are in the same room. This is how they do it in parliamentary elections in the United Kingdom. A colonizer. I can still remember third grade looking at that map behind our reading group, the colored map, the British, every item of the British Empire was in red. And Mrs. McCormick, on more than one occasion, it's kind of a testable item. Class, the sun never sets on the British Empire. You remember that, Jose? Because the British Empire was scattered all the way around the world. So if you're looking for a colonizer, even Americans were colonized by the United Kingdom. So that's what Robert wants to copy, is the way the colonizer does things.
Headline, Underwood wants to colonize Guam voters.
Exactly. Now, you'd think if he's really a Chamorro irredentist, and that has nothing to do with your teeth, the word irredenta goes back to Mussolini's Italy when he was talking about Italia irredenta. In other words, the reestablishment of the Roman Empire. So if we're going to do some Chamorro irredenta, then we should let everything go down to the village level. Forget this centralized government thing, right? And let the Magahaga, each of the Lugat, be the ones that are calling the shots. But anyhow, that's not the main reason I put this on the card for today. He goes on to say, after he goes through this scenario, imagine bringing Felix and Lou into the Guam Election Commissioner, JFK, to announce the results. They stand there. Election officials announce the voting tally, and then the candidates speak. It would require everyone to be moderately polite. They would be on a stage. They won't be surrounded by inebriated supporters or crying family members. The loser will concede, and contestants are likely to have forced smiles. But they would be unlikely to talk about corruption and intimidation as Felix did during his concession. So,
he can't help himself.
Yeah, so...
I'm talking about Underwood.
Yeah. So, have you ever seen a dead horse get up and walk, Jose?
Not in this column.
No. No matter how much you beat a dead horse. And man, Underwood has beaten this dead horse. He'll never forgive Felix for beating him twice when he ran for governor. After all, he'd spent 5 terms in Washington. How dare Felix beat him twice? So there we go for Robert Underwood again.
How dare you?
Yeah, of course, Robert really made his bones back in 1952 with critical race theory, because he's been giving speeches on critical race theory since that time. Okay, then we go from there to the wingless roosters, a wingless rooster versus a lame duck. Now, I'm going to define the term lame duck in case you're not familiar with it. A lame duck is someone who is in elected office who either didn't run for re-election or ran for re-election, was beaten. From the moment that people know that he won't be in the legislature next time or in government the next time. So a skillful politician avoids being a lame duck as long as he can. If the election's in November, you don't come out in July and say, well, I'm not going to run for re-election, because you lose a lot of your ability, a lot of your effectiveness when you become a lame duck. There's no getting around that. And of course, between the election and the end of the term, when there are lame ducks, the lame ducks don't have the same clout that they would have if they were coming back next time. Now, there's a lot that goes into that, and there's a lot of wheeling and dealing that come up with this. You know, now we're going to talk about the heartbeat bill here for a second. And you know, the heartbeat bill is very controversial. And you know that the anti-aborts probably don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. I mean, the pro-aborts probably don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole if they can avoid it. They don't want to be on record as voting against an anti-abortion bill, even though they'll come right out and say, oh, I'm really against abortion, but I support a woman's right to choose what to do with her own body. So there may have been some strategic considerations here where the antis and the pros got together, and the antis and the pros said, okay, we'll tell you what, we'll put it on the floor. We'll get it on the floor, but only after the election. That's the deal. Take it or leave it, after the election or not at all. So the pro-aborts were in kind of the same situation, the same dilemma that I posed last Friday when I suggested the hypothetical situation where you had 8 pros and 8 antis, and Joe St. Augustine, I can't support any legislation that doesn't make the 3 exceptions. So if you're anti-abortion, what do? You say, you start out with a proposition: it's never all right to take the life of a helpless, innocent human. Never, ever, ever, for any reason. But Joe comes along and says, if you go along with the 3 exceptions, rape, incest, and mother's life, I'll go along with your anti-abortion bill. If not, I ain't going to do it. So what do? Talk about being caught on the horns of a dilemma, right? On the one hand, you could go along with it and lay the foundation to save a lot of lives. On the other hand, you could be true to your ideals and not save anybody. It's a tough one. So here we are with the going from lame ducks to the flightless rooster. The flightless rooster is a gentleman named Will Parkinson.
He's stuck in the grass.
Yeah, who perhaps may achieve a new Tall Tales moniker. He may in the future be renowned as Won't Parkinson. Yeah, an expected new member for the oncoming term of the legislature is hoping one pending bill in the current body does not proceed to a vote in the final session for outgoing senators this month. Won't Parkinson, who finished in the top 15 of legislative candidates, who finished in the top 15 candidates in the 2022 general, according to a final unofficial. They waste a whole paragraph when you can just say Will Parkinson won, right? Won't Parkinson, right?
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Yeah, but the results haven't been certified yet. Let me tell you about the times, that we had a count of who won, and then when the votes were actually certified, there was a different winner. You want to know how many times that's happened, Jose?
Not enough to render this long statement that they just put in here.
No, it's never happened.
Never.
It's never, ever happened. You know, you're talking about a discrepancy of less than a dozen votes at the most. Okay. He's written to Speaker Therese Terlahi, who is anticipated to be a certified winner. Wow. Do you think?
Don't hold your breath.
Yeah.
Or do hold your breath.
She's anticipated to be a certified winner in the same race. And he's requesting that she support his call to not vote on Bill 291. Well, he's starting to pass before he's even a member, right? Therese, when the roll is called, just pass. The measure would further restrict abortions on Guam by allowing private citizens to sue doctors who perform the procedures after a fetal heartbeat is protected. According to Parkinson, the issue he has with the vote proceeding is the number of lame duck members of the legislature. Lame duck members. Let's take a short break here and we'll come back to lame duck members.
Reggae in Paradise. Let's vibe out to some of the hottest Irie vibes on all your playlists. It's Reggae in Paradise this Saturday at Paseo Stadium, featuring Mixplate, Bubba B, Fantasia, The John Dank Show, Kimmy A. Minor, Liquid Jordy,
Get this work, I'll be on my way.
High Water,
Like Pearl, and there will be no other girl for me.
and Rebel Sojas.
My life is on a spaceship.
Get your tickets now at guamtime.net. What are you waiting for? Presenting sponsors, big thanks to Riga Royal, IT&E, White Claw, GVB, Gasolina, Linda's Diner, and Empire Media and Entertainment. This Saturday, November 19th, Reggae in Paradise. We'll see you there.
Pacific Points is more rewarding with friends. Get 100 bonus points for every friend you refer that signs up and earns points. Both you and your friends will enjoy awesome perks like discounts on Shell fuel, rebates on your IT&E bills, vouchers at foodies, and United Mileage Plus miles. Plus, earn more points to upgrade your membership tier and enjoy even more exclusive rewards. Learn more at PacificPoints.com. Pacific Points. Do more, get more.
Okay, so going back to Walt Parkinson here. According to Parkinson, the issue he has with the vote proceeding is the number of lame duck members of the legislature, a term used to describe elected officials who are not returning for a succeeding term in office. In total, 6 members, or 40% of the body, falls into this category and will not be returning in the new term. Boy, the Post is really sticking their neck out here. What if these guys are you know, they're not going through that long song and dance there. 2 lawmakers, Clint Rigel and Mary Torres, chose not to run. 2 more, Tony Atta and Jose Pito Terlahi, failed to win, with Atta choosing to run for lieutenant governor in this year's Republican gubernatorial ticket. And the measure's author, Senator Talina Nelson, lost her contested primary election when pursuing the position of Guam's non-voting delegate to the U.S. House of Representatives, a race ultimately won by Republican Senator Jim Moylan. Parkinson, who is among the candidates expected to be sworn in January. What do you think? You think he'll be there? He's expected to be there.
I think he thinks he's already there.
Yeah. Told the speaker that the outgoing members are beyond the scrutiny of the electorate.
What?
Who have expressed their concern about this issue. By allowing this emotionally charged issue to proceed during the holidays after the general election, in lame duck sessions, we cast a long and dirty shadow over the lawmaking process. How dare the legislature come into the session to discuss bills that have been in their docket for over a year?
He just got elected. He doesn't understand the legislature.
That's just dirty, Jose. That's dirty pool. Sorry, Tom.
How dare you?
The incoming freshman lawmaker urged Senator Tetlahi not to repeat past mistakes during other sessions that closed out legislative terms and instead proposed that the matter be taken up in the 37th Guam legislature. By doing so, you allow everyone to approach this important debate in the light of regular order, subject to the judgment of those who sent us here, Parkinson wrote. The other guys just snuck in. The lame ducks just snuck in, right? But in a statement sent to the Daily Post, the current legislative speaker said the Organic Act allows duly elected senators to consider all lawful subjects in its sessions until the next inauguration. You know, let's not screw around with trifles like the law.
Go figure.
We've got more important stuff to talk about.
What does an attorney know anyways?
Yeah. Well, and actually you don't need an attorney. You don't need a doctor. What you need is a veterinarian. Where's Tom Poole when we really need him? Ducks and roosters, and maybe we could get Ernie Chargoloff to come up because he knows a lot about geese.
Someone's going to get goosed.
Yeah, Terlahi goes on to say, changing this is not under the purview of the Speaker or any lawmaker. If he, meaning Won't Parkinson, wants to reduce the Organic Act authority of the legislature, he will need to discuss that with the U.S. Congress, Terlahi stated. One local law that does exist mandates a narrow restriction for lame duck officials, prohibiting employees working for those who lost elections from receiving pay raises. The Speaker, who chairs the committee that heard and reported on the bill currently under scrutiny, said further inquiries on the fate of the Heartbeat Act should be directed to the Committee on Rules, which is chaired by Vice Speaker Tina Munya Barnes.
Now the real story begins.
Yeah. And another animal enters the fray, the buck.
The buck.
Getting passed from Therese to Tina. Barnes, in a statement of her own sent to the Post, said because the authority granted in the Organic Act, what outgoing senators choose to vote on or not vote on are matters of conscience. Barnes said, however, that some issues are so divisive that taking them up after an election has passed will be seen as politically convenient, which is just exactly what I said.
Enter the chickens.
Yeah, enter the chickens. Given the importance of this issue, I think it should be considered by more than a lame duck body. I will not support its movement to the floor for that reason. Now, I understand that it was Teresa's committee, and there were only 4 signatures on the committee report. Therese came along and signed report out only. That shoves it then off to the Rules Committee, to Tina Rose Munya Barnes. And we now know that Tina Rose Munya Barnes has recognized the flightless rooster as another species, as a kindred species of chicken. According to the Speaker, the agenda for the 36th legislature final session is expected to be approved during November 15 during the Committee on Rules. So, you know, on the one hand, you can say, oh, well, they're just trying to politicize the whole thing by giving it to the lame ducks. Some other folks are going to say, yeah, they're just trying to politicize the whole thing by running the clock out until after the election. So if it's before the legislature, let's get it over with and let's do it. But of course, both Tina and Parkinson have counted the votes. and they know that the folks that are leaving are mostly pro-Heartbeat Act. So it's not as clear as they would have you believe. Let's take a short break, or let's break for the big halftime show and Rogues Gallery.
I'm Laura Cantor, Fox News. President Biden attending the G20 summit in Indonesia, where he met with leaders from South Korea and Japan Sunday. They discussed North Korea's mounting threat of launching nuclear missiles. The president will hold a crucial meeting with Chinese leader Xi Jinping on Monday. It will be the first face-to-face meeting between the two since Biden became president. Fox's Kevin Uretsky has more.
While many feel China is America's greatest economic and military threat and rival, the president feels that the fact that this is not the first time he'll be speaking to Xi is an advantage.
I spend more time with any other world leader. I know him well. He knows me.
Among the topics likely to be discussed, Taiwan's independence, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and the balance of trade between the U.S. and China.
Meanwhile, in the U.S., the final midterm race is still waiting to be called. On Saturday night, the Democrats kept control of the Senate, with incumbent Senator Catherine Cortez Masto's win over Republican Adam Laxalt in the Nevada Senate race. Fox's Chad Pergram has more.
Republicans are trying to unpack why they lost when expectations were astronomical. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer believes Democrats prevailed because of former President Trump. Some congressional Republicans privately tell Fox they believe the former president dragged the party down in some regions. But other Republicans stand by the former president. Right now, Kevin McCarthy lacks the votes to become House Speaker. That leaves House Republicans scrambling. Some conservatives demand someone besides McCarthy.
The highly anticipated Arizona gubernatorial race between Democrat Katie Hobbs and Republican Carrie Lake has not been decided yet. The University of Virginia is on lockdown following reports of a shooting on campus, according to the school's police department. No word yet on whether there were any injuries or fatalities. America is listening to Fox News.
Reggae in Paradise. Let's vibe out to some of the hottest Irie vibes on all your playlists. It's Reggae in Paradise this Saturday at Paseo Stadium, featuring Mix Plate, Bubba B, Fantasia, The John Dank Show, Kimmy A. Minor, Liquid Jordy,
Get this work, I'll be on my way.
High Water,
Like Pearl, and there will be no other girl for me.
and Rebel Sojas.
My life is on a spaceship.
Get your tickets now at guamtime.net. What are you waiting for? Presenting sponsors, big thanks to Riga Royal, IT&E, White Claw, GVB, Gasolina, Linda's Diner, and Empire Media and Entertainment. This Saturday, November 19th, Reggae in Paradise. We'll see you there.
With migrants still crossing the southern border in record numbers, U.S. Customs and Border Patrol Commissioner Chris Magnus is asked to step down from his position. Fox's Mike Tobin reports from Eagle Pass, Texas.
All started to go down immediately following the midterm elections. Magnus was approached by Secretary Mayorkas. The leak came about a day or two ago. Magnus refused to step down, and within 24 hours, he, in fact, stepped down. But you talk about it spiraling out of control, and really it just remains out of control. The migrants know it. The smugglers know it. The coyotes know it, and that is why we see this constant march of migrants coming to the border. Speaking with police out here who work the border, they say they're not optimistic that anything will change.
King Charles III celebrating Remembrance Day in the United Kingdom, the first time as king. Fox's Kitty Logan reports from London.
Remembrance Sunday is marked every year in the UK to mark Armistice Day. As is tradition, King Charles laid a wreath at the National War Memorial, the Cenotaph, paying tribute to those servicemen and women who lost their lives. Although he has represented the Queen at this ceremony several times in recent years, this was the first time Charles was seen performing this duty as king. The ceremony was also attended by the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, and other members of the royal family.
Superheroes continue to conquer the weekend box office.
A long-awaited Marvel sequel debuts at #1.
He's coming.
Disney's Black Panther Wakanda Forever opening with $180 million in domestic ticket sales, making it the second biggest opening of the year. Black Adam drops to second place, adding $8.1 million and bringing its domestic total to over $151 million. The romantic comedy Ticket to Paradise rounds out the top three with $6.1 million in ticket sales.
That's Fox's Kathleen Maloney. I'm Laura Cantor, Fox News.
Gas is expensive, so let the bank come to you. Through our remote deposit capture, you can deposit your checks into your account from your phone. And with our Dynamite Bank Pacific Visa debit card, you can use your money anytime, anywhere. It's the perfect combo.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Equal housing lender. Member FDIC. Crank it up.
Come try Guam's original Chamorro restaurant with Pica's Best 5 years running. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus to naktak, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet hamburgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña and Grand Plaza Tuman location. Call their Hagåtña location at 479-2652 for reservations.
Choice Broadcasting introduces their unbeatable lineup of morning show.
Hands down winners of Guam's morning radio battle.
Carol Lizama grooves his way through Boss 104 playing Guam's favorite classic hits.
Morning mouth Ray Gibson shakes the cage on 93.3 The Point.
And now, we are proud to announce the Morning Blender with Kyle Mandapat, mixing it up at sunrise on Star 101.
If you're an advertiser trying to reach the most valuable ears, we've got the shows that listeners have been tuning into for decades.
One call gets all three.
671-888-7346. That's 888-REIO.
There we are at the end of another beautiful halftime show conducted by Jose. And we just cycled through another episode of the Rogues Gallery on Tall Tales. Man, such a collection of really nice-looking people in one time frame, Jose. It's really a sight to behold, isn't it?
It's the envy of all other streaming radio stations.
Absolutely. So I'm going to go to Hope's screen test. It is Red Shirt Monday, as you notice, in a second. But I do want to make a clarification here and add a little bit more, to the mix here on the idea of the heartbeat bill. Now I'm looking at the vote sheet for the heartbeat bill committee report. Committees are composed of as many as 10, 11, sometimes as few as 6 or 7 members. And in order for a bill to be reported out of committee, that's a term of art, reported out of committee, a majority of the members of the committee must either to vote to do pass or to report out only. Now, the other choices are to abstain, to place in the inactive file, or to not pass. So if you have 9 members on a committee and 5 of them vote to not pass, that bill's not going anywhere. It's not going out of committee. If you have 5 that vote for to do pass or to report out only, then it goes out of committee. Now, remember at the beginning of the discussion here, I mentioned that there may very well have been some horse trading going on with respect to putting this bill on the session agenda, that there may have been a deal somewhere along the line where the agreement was from the committee chairman, yeah, we'll put it on, but it's got to be after the election because it's just too hot a potato. Nobody wants to vote against an anti-abortion bill before election, no matter how pro-abort they are. So I'm looking at the sheet, and the first votes were way back in June 20, June 21, June 22. That was Talina Nelson, the sponsor, Joanne Brown, and Chris Duenas, a co-sponsor. They knew back in June that they wanted that bill to pass. Nobody else voted for a long, long time. As a matter of fact, Speaker Terlahi, contrary to what I said earlier, never voted on the committee report. To pass, to not pass, she didn't vote at all. Of course, why should she? She's the chairman of the committee. And Senator Sabina Flores never voted, nor did Vice Speaker Tina Rose Munya Barnes. Well, why should Barnes vote when she gets the final say at rules, right? She can decide whether it goes on the rules agenda. And then we had Senator Jose Pito Terlahi, who says he's anti-abortion, but he didn't vote either. So, you know, all of the animals involved here, I think the chicken is most predominant. Although Harvey Egna has come along and told us that Won't Parkinson is the manifestation of that exotic extinct bird known as the dodo bird. No bilingual pun intended there, Jose. So then how did that bill finally get out of committee? Tello voted to report out only in September, but that still didn't get it out. So going up to the election on November 8th, four positive votes when you need 5. Somebody's holding back. Someone doesn't want that to go on the agenda until after the election. Amanda Shelton, one of the co-sponsors of the Heartbeat bill, had not voted by November 8th.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Amanda Shelton comes along on November 10 and votes report out only. A little bit of chicanery, wheeling and dealing behind the scenes there, you know, kind of substantiating my theory that there was a deal. Yeah, we're not going to put it on before the election. We'll get it out of this committee after the election. But I can't tell you anything about Tina, because Tina's not going to vote on the committee report, and she is chair of rules. But we'll at least do that for you guys, you sponsors of that anti-abortion bill. Now, you would have thought that Shelton would have been one of the first ones to do with a due pass. No, 2 days after the election, she comes along. So it's just a little bit more interesting information on that bill. Okay, let's go to the Black Lives Matter rally and the heroic, courageous stand of Hope Christobel against counter-protesters at the Black Lives Matter rally.
Colonizer! You're nothing but a white colonizer. That's who you are. Colonization is the same thing as slow murder. You're a murderer. That's who you are. We need to just do different. We need to do better. Get off my island.
Sir, you need to go. You can't be policing people here and telling people how to protest and what to protest for. You need to go. You need to go. I'm against this. That's cool, but you cannot be policing people and telling them how to protest and what to advocate for. She has a right to go.
I'm an indigenous tomorrow. I have more rights here than you are. You came here because of the structures of colonialism, asshole. Bahubini Madahoda. Bahara Son, the guy you do with me. How good that's a short movie. What's on you? You need to leave.
You need to go.
Please.
You need to get out of here.
Please pause this.
Get out of here.
Please, this is not your place.
When I get a chance, go.
Please. Thank you. Thank you, pause this. Please leave. No, you cannot.
What happened, man?
Oh, he confronted me.
What did he
He's
say?
telling me I shouldn't be here. I support Black Lives Matter. It's part of the colonialistic systemic racism. And I came here to support these people. He's a white man that has come here. And he continues the legacy of colonialism. He continues to fight people, individuals, my goodness. I'm a former senator. I authored the Commission on Decolonization. I'm a malo.
We're proud of you, Auntie.
So there we go. Hope Cristobal screen test. We run it every Monday. I just don't want to run the risk of someone not seeing it to know who the face and voice of the separatist movement on the island is here. It's Hope Cristobal, chairman of the Chamorro Language Commission, author of the Commission on so-called decolonization. And here's a little workup on her from the Daily Post of May 2022, when, what's her name, Natividad from the university nominated Hope for the Nobel Peace Prize. If anybody deserved a Peace Prize, it would be Hope Cristobal. Cristobal, who served as a senator from 95 to 97, was a sponsor of local statutes that created a Commission on Decolonization and established the Chamorro Registry. She is the chair of the Chamorro Language Commission and the director of the Guam Museum. She has held many titles through the years. Cristobal sees herself first and foremost as a nurturer. Well, she sure nurtured Paul Zerzan, didn't she? Nothing but a white man. Te tautano si Zerzan, tautano gui. On and on. He's a white man.
If only he used Robert's rules to talk to her, then he could have done it.
He could have. Yeah, and then we go on to find out this about Hope. As an activist, Cristobal is not afraid of confrontation. At the Black Lives Matter rally in Agana last year, there were counter-protesters harassing us, she said. You saw the counter-protesters harassing her. I wasn't afraid. There are always people out there who will challenge you. These are just a part of the journey. It can be hard because I am an educator. I went to the Black Lives Matter rally because I wanted to show my support for oppressed people, and I wanted to oppress one myself. I follow the news, and I'm aware that innocent people are getting killed just because the color of their skin. We need to see each other beyond the color of our skin. What a piece of work, Hope Cristobal. We're going to play it again next week. So if you have friends that haven't seen it, tell them if they don't see it any other time, tune in to Tall Tales right after the big halftime show, and we'll run it again next week. Okay, so we did away with a menagerie of animals: flightless roosters, lame ducks, bucks.
Extinct bird waterfowl.
Extinct dodo birds. And we finally wind up here with a crow. An old crow.
You get your husbandry award today, Bob.
Yeah. Okay, next on the card here is Democrats and Repeat versus Doug Moylan. And this is a story that ran in the Post. Doug Moylan's attendance at GOP headquarters questioned. Now, this is another slanted piece by the Post. Here we go. Doug Moylan, who currently leads in the race for the island's next attorney general, maintains his nonpartisan status despite, key word here, despite spending time at Republican gubernatorial campaign headquarters on election night. Despite. So this is what happened. On election night, Doug was at the Republican campaign headquarters, and he says, well, I maintain my nonpartisan status, but we caught him. The Post is saying, we caught him because he was at the Republican headquarters on election night. So he says he's nonpartisan despite the fact that we got him on a video at the, yeah, nice journalism, right? Nice journalism. The Attorney General, unlike other elected government positions, is not affiliated with any local party. Local law provides candidates for the position shall declare no party affiliation. But as the 2022 general election votes were being counted for the AG on election night, Moylan was camped with the losing gubernatorial ticket of Felix Santoni. He was at the team's Tamooning headquarters when results were announced that he finished the night with a preliminary unofficial lead over the incumbent AG Levin Camacho by 77 votes. Now, they don't tell us here whether Doug Moylan had his trousers properly hitched up around his waist. But the implications are that they weren't, right, Jose? Yeah. And Moylan said that when Moylan was asked about how he wore his trousers, he declined to answer. But shortly after the question was posed, he adjourned to the men's room. Such a pointed article here. After learning the results, Moylan said he was very and thankful for his supporters and the supporters of Felix Camacho and Adam. Man, talk about a smoking gun, Jose. I also want to thank the Camacho Ada team and their supporters, because without them, I would not have been able to achieve this victory for Guam, Moylan said Wednesday morning before expressing his intention to, quote, make Guam safe again. We elected this guy, and he's supposed to be nonpartisan, and he's camped at the Camacho Ada headquarters?
So if you don't die, you'll live.
Despite Moylan's statements and presence, he asserted to the Post that he has never sponsored nor been endorsed by either political party. He's obviously lying there, you know, after all of the stuff they laid out. Can you believe him on this one? Must be some kind of a smoke-filled room deal, Jose.
His fingers must have been crossed.
Moylan also said, since he was the first elected Attorney General, parties have opened their doors to AG candidates. It's traditionally been allowed by the political parties, but we're not endorsing any political party. We're nonpartisan, so in terms of exactly what you can and cannot do, it's never specifically defined. Well, I'm going to take issue with Doug there because I think it is specifically defined. I'll get to that. Moylan said before mentioning he attended and was invited to speak at rallies for both parties prior to the election. In this next paragraph, the Post really steps in it. Moylan said he could have gone to the headquarters for Governor Leon Guerrero and Governor Josh Tenorio, but did not because ongoing litigation between his client, Robert Klitzkie, and the gubernatorial candidates would have made the visit, quote, uncomfortable. You know, just now here's an indication of their devotion to accuracy, Jose. My name has been in the Post 88 million times, right? You think they'd know how to spell it by now? They misspelled it in this article.
I saw.
Yeah.
How dare they?
Yeah. So I don't much care. You know, it's not much pride in name.
Are you sure it's you?
Yeah, maybe it's somebody else, a doppelganger, maybe, right? But you know, if you can't get the little things right, then how do we trust you to get the big things? And if my name had never been in their paper before, I see that misspelling. If people are going to misspell it, that's how they do it. But it's in their morgue. It's in their old files. It's been in their paper for a long, going way back to the Mariana's Variety, for crying out loud. So, so I can understand Doug not wanting to go there because it would be uncomfortable. Good manners, perhaps. Now, to tell you what that's about, you remember when Levin Camacho filed his 144-page complaint for a declaratory judgment against 4 contracts for hotel leases. Remember that? And my remark was, cui bono, who benefits here? Because what he was doing in his complaint was saying, here's what the governor did. Here's what the Supreme Court said. The governor did everything right, and we want a judgment from the court that says that. Well, that's not how the court works. First of all, you have to have a real case or controversy. Courts don't give advisory opinions. Second, you have to have parties. Ordinarily, it's a plaintiff and defendant. Government's interest in 4 contracts is way, way short of a plaintiff. So, and Levin uses as a foundation for taking some hard shots at BJ. BJ pointed out that the one contract that he did take issue with was when the governor sent her consigliere, her son-in-law, negotiate with the Pac Star when the Pac Star had an outstanding $38 million mortgage with the Bank of Guam that was in foreclosure. And Levin didn't touch that with somebody else's 10-foot pole. What he did was come in and provide cover for the governor. I thought this was outrageous. So Doug agreed to take the case on for me pro bono. I would have liked to have intervened, but I wouldn't have had standing. Amicus brief was the best I could do, so Doug put together a complaint for leave to file an amicus brief, bringing these things up to the judge. My own analysis is that Judge Barcenas ought to dismiss this matter sua sponte. No case or controversy, no parties. Get out of here. Don't waste the court's time. But anyhow, that's what that paragraph alludes to. Okay, we go from the stupidity of the Post to the stupidity of Pete Santos, who gets the Opportunist of the Year award this time around, right? You know, if you want to file for candidacy, you got to jump through a lot of hoops. You got papers to file, you got financial disclosures, filing fees, police clearances, on and on and on. Ray kvetches about it a lot on his show. So what Peter did was he didn't do any of that stuff. He waited until it was too late and then came along and said, I'm going to be a write-in candidate. And I'm better than both of these other 2 guys. And he got a couple thousand votes. Good for his vanity. And then he's got a perfect excuse. Well, no, I didn't win, but what the hell? I was just a write-in candidate. You expected that I would win? So he got his name in the paper, got some press, etc. And then he comes along and had it not been for him, my analysis is he only took votes away from Doug Moylan, which shouldn't have been something he would want to do after turning his guns on Levin really, really hard and telling us what a bad job Levin was doing. So then Peter comes along and says, in response to Moylan's appearance, he said it was improper. He also accused Camacho of being supported by the Democrat Party. Levin's materials were with all in campaign materials during canvassing and something, and same thing for Doug with Camacho at a canvassing. So to the regular observer, it looks like Levin was endorsed by the Democrats and Doug was endorsed by the Republicans, Santos said. There's no law against it. It's just totally improper. So we have a new minder of manners and morals here. His name is Peter Santos, going all the way back to telling us why we shouldn't even think about keeping Mike St. Nicholas in Washington and his own pack, then taking off after Levin, and Levin and Doug, and now telling us what's improper and not improper.
Well, I see his anecdotal evidence, and I match it and raise it to an even better conspiracy. Because my mom received a packet with Camacho Ada, Senator Bloss, Doug Moylan, and Levin Camacho material.
All in one packet.
All in one packet.
Wow. There you
So
go.
where to do, what to do.
Yeah. That's as bad as my dilemma about 8 and Joe San Augustine, right? Well, I kind of cheated here, right? I took a look at the law. And if you look at 5 GCA 30101, subsection A, it says, a candidate for the position of Attorney General shall declare no political party affiliation. Candidates shall be subject to the same campaign and financial reporting requirements as apply to candidates for governor, as well as all laws pertaining to campaign contributions, etc. So the law just says the Attorney General candidate can declare no political party affiliation.
That's all.
That's it. That's all. So somebody sticks a microphone in his face and says, Doug, you ran for senator once, didn't you? Yeah, I did. What party did you run on? I ran as a Republican. Are you a Republican? Well, I ran as a Republican. Are you a Republican? No, I'm not. I'm not declaring any party affiliation in my race for Attorney General. You want to tell us anything else? Yeah, I really like Felix Camacho and Tony Ada. They're great guys. I spent a lot of time with them, etc. They're wonderful folks. I don't care much for Lulian Guerrero, to tell you the truth. But I'm running for Attorney General. That would pass muster. How about this? Felix Camacho says, I'm a good Republican. I've known Doug Moylan ever since. He's always been a good Republican. I'm voting for Doug Moylan. I urge all of my Republican friends out there to vote for Doug Moylan. Any problem with that?
Still kosher.
No problem at all. No problem at all. Lulian Guerrero comes out and says, he's a Republican. I don't want a Republican at AG when I'm the Democrat governor. Don't vote for Doug Moylan. He's a Republican. Problem?
Still kosher.
Still okay, yeah. So the Post ginned up a controversy out of basically thin air. And they pretty well convicted Doug Moylan of doing something wrong, even when there isn't anything wrong to do. And then Repeat comes along and kind of like Repeat is in a constant search for soapboxes. I want to say something. Anybody got any soapbox here I can climb on? I want to shoot my mouth off about this. And actually, Repeat wasn't really a candidate, because if you look at the laws and the definition of a candidate, you cannot be a candidate unless you file the papers, unless you receive money and file a report for that. If he didn't receive any money, then he was no different from me. I understand that somebody wrote my name in. I don't present myself as a write-in candidate for Attorney General or anything else. So, classic example of much ado over nothing. Doug didn't do anything wrong. The parties didn't do anything wrong. Repeat is out there grandstanding. And once again, the Post is tipping its hat as to who it favors and who it opposes, just like it did with Michael St. Nicholas. All right, let's head for Wrigley Field.
Pacific Points is more rewarding with friends. Get 100 bonus points for every friend you refer that signs up and earns points. Both you and your friends will enjoy awesome perks like discounts on Shell fuel, rebates on your IT&E bills, vouchers at Foodies, and United Mileage Plus miles. Plus, earn more points to upgrade your membership tier and enjoy even more exclusive rewards. Learn more at PacificPoints.com. Pacific Points. Do more, get more.
Half a day. This is Clara Manglona from Security Title. A power of attorney can be a useful tool in a real estate transaction, but if abused, it can result in devastating loss. Choosing your representative should be done with the utmost care and should be very specific about the powers being granted. To mitigate loss, the team at Security Title confirms with the owner prior to using a power of attorney to sell the property. Each transaction is unique. Let the professionals at Security Title use our experience to facilitate a secure closing. We are here to help.
Okay, next on the card, here we are at Wrigley Field in Chicago. Another great Cubs game, right? Next on the card is Therese versus Opacity, followed by Therese versus the national government. This is a story that ran in the Post. Speaker Therese Tetlahi has introduced a pair of measures aimed at addressing concerns resulting from plans to construct a new medical campus at Eagles Field in Manila. 353 would add new sections to the Guam 21st Century Healthcare Center Act, a public law enacted last year to fund the construction of the medical campus. Bill 353 inserts language mandating that meetings of the Guam 21st Century Healthcare Center Committee would be subject to the open government law and meetings would be open to the public. Meeting minutes will also need to be posted on the GITA website and recordings provided to the Office of Public Accountability. Copies of documents are to be sent to the office speaker within 15 days after a meeting. Good legislation. Very good legislation.
I have a question.
Sure.
If that passes, and of course it won't be signed into law.
No.
And if it's overruled, overridden, the veto, it still won't be effective until the health emergency is over, right?
Interesting question. Yeah, because the health emergency said you can only have the only open government meetings can be virtual meetings.
And she got and the governor got rid of open government practically.
Yeah, she did. Yeah, that's an interesting question. And then, of course, Therese's bill comes here at the lame duck period.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So it's only 50% effective.
Yeah, so
40% effective.
And there's nothing in the news story that suggests that Therese consulted with Walt Parkinson before she introduced the bill either. So it may not get out of committee. Yeah, so I've got the 353 here in front of me, and she, you start out with, everybody but Snow White and three of the dwarfs on this committee. You got administrator or deputy administrator of GITA, healthcare agencies, public works, land management, bureaus of BOSAP, BBMR, Department of Administration, and then she adds the president of the Medical Society and the president of the medical association or his designee. So I've chatted about these things before. When you got a group of high-powered dudes like this, and you expect them to get anything done, it's not going to happen. Because every one of those folks, every one of those directors or designees is going to be looking out for his own turf first. He's not going to take a global view of the whole thing. And he will be quick to mention during the breaks that he's already got a full plate over at his own agency to run that without spending a lot of time with this committee entering into long gab fests. So it's not going to go anywhere. But certainly Therese is to be commended to opening it up to the public. Now, there ought to be a short title for this bill. You know, the title of the bill is in the all caps heading. And then oftentimes there will be a section 1. This bill may be referred to as the Every Child Act, as an example. So this one, the short title for this bill ought to be the Ken Leon Guerrero Public Participation Act, in honor of Ken's busting down the door to get into one of these healthcare meetings. Nice going, Ken. Yeah, so that's a really good step in the right direction. And, you know, for you incoming senators, that after you get sworn in, you won't be able to do anything about this before you're sworn in.
You mean alleged incoming senator?
Yeah, you should be able to introduce bills before you're actually sworn in, but you can't. You might want to have a catch-all, and that is you might want to have an open government catch-all that says something along the lines of, whenever government employees discuss policy, the open government law and the Sunshine Law will apply. Now, that's a little bit too broad, but something along those lines. So even if a statute doesn't mention it, you know it's included. The greatest weapon that we have in favor of good government is transparency. So good going here on Therese for introducing that transparency there. And then, of course, she's doing a little political maneuvering herself when she adds members to that committee. She adds the president of the Medical Association and the president of the Medical Society. Now, remember, these folks are at one another's throats.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah. So she's not going to favor one over the other. Okay, and then Therese has another bill going on to the second part of this article. The other measure introduced by the Speaker is Bill 352, legislation targeted at plans to utilize land at Eagles Field for the medical complex. The Eagles Field property, a total of 102 acres, are still under the control of the federal government. Now, there we go again. Are still under the control of the federal government. They're not still under the control of the federal government.
They're owned, right?
They're owned by the federal government. GovGuam is seeking to lease that land, but Bill 352 would ensure that legislative approval would first need to be granted before GovGuam and its agencies can purchase, lease, sublease, or license property owned by the federal government. You can see where this is going, right? Now, the short title for this bill ought to be the Ancestral Claimants Monkey Wrench Bill. The measure came up after last month's oversight hearing on the medical campus. The bills were introduced after the oversight hearing regarding the location of the new hospital, and the bills were based on concern brought up by LATLO, Eagles Field landowners and other landowners. Once again, if you're going to write a story, tell the truth. This was not brought up by landowners. The landowner is the national government. These irate people at the public hearing are not landowners. Maybe they want to be landowners. Maybe the guy writing the story wishes they were, but that doesn't make it true. Passage of these bills will allow for more focused input from lawmakers, landowners, and the general public on these more specific and very important matters, Titlahi told the Post. The governor's office is yet to comment on the bills. So I want to go to Churchill Downs, and I'll come back and finish up on this.
Reggae in Paradise. Let's vibe out to some of the hottest Irie vibes on all your playlists. It's Reggae in Paradise this Saturday at Paseo Stadium, featuring Mix Plate, Bubba B, Fantasia, The John Dank Show, Kimmy A. Minor, Liquid Jordy, High Water, and Rebel Sojas.
Life is on a spaceship.
Get your tickets now at guamtime.net. What are you waiting for? Presenting sponsors, big thanks to Riga Royal, IT&E, White Claw, GVB, Gasolina, Linda's Diner, and Empire Media and Entertainment. This Saturday, November 19th, Reggae in Paradise. We'll see you there.
Are you looking for a new place to hang out with your friends? Let's go along the sidelines at Sidelines Bar and Grill. Located at 154 Iriarty Road, Unit 4 and 5 in Tamuning behind Royal Bigs. Sidelines, a hidden gem with nothing but great things to offer. Great atmosphere, great food, top shelf drinks, and a great team. What are we waiting for? Let the fun begin at Sidelines Bar and Grill. Open daily from 3 p.m. to 2 a.m. See you there.
I'm going to go into the next part of this story, but once again, I got to correct the language that the Post uses here. We start out with the phenomenon known as eminent domain, where a government can take private property for public use, but must pay just compensation to the owner of the private property. Once the national government or a territorial government takes the property in fee simple, the former owner, the pre-condemnation owner, has no more interest in that land than Jose and I do. He's a stranger to the title of that land. So if you're talking about someone who owned land that was taken by the government, you're talking about a pre-condemnation owner. You're not talking about an ancestral owner. You're not talking about an original owner, unless that person goes all the way back to the Spanish era and has a patent from the king or queen of Spain. But the newspapers here really garble this up. They go along with the narrative. This is a classic case of systemic racism, siding with the pre-condemnation owners and helping them pretend that they have some right to the return of land taken by the national government. So here we go. Several family members of original owners of Eagles Field, original owners, right, attended the October oversight hearing, and some original owners, meaning pre-condemnation owners, want their land returned. Their land returned. It's not their land. Instead of monetary compensation or land exchange. They have called on local officials to work on amending federal law that poses a roadblock to land return for ancestral owners. Now you read this, you're thinking, boy, if you don't listen to tall tales, if you don't know what's really going on, man, the federal government, these roadblocks, give the land back to the original, give them their ancestral lands back. Yeah. The purpose of the law 106-504 is to place GovGuam ahead of all federal agencies in return of excess lands, according to its author, former Congressman Robert Underwood. However, U.S. Law 106 requires that land be returned to the local government for public benefit use. And I've explained this a million times. That's the way it's always done. When the national government doesn't need it anymore, it offers it to other federal agencies. They don't need it, they'll offer it to state government. Robert Underwood had told us that he introduced 106-504 to short-circuit that process so the land would be offered immediately to the government of Guam and not to other federal agencies. But it's got to be for public benefit use. Prior federal law 103-339 returns specific parcels to GovGuam for public benefit use and required development of a land use plan as a condition of release. Now, this is really important here. Nothing in U.S. Law 103 discussed the return of land to original owners, meaning pre-condemnation owners, and it did not list that as one of the allowable public benefit uses, according to a 2019 legal brief by attorney Terrence Brooks. 339 didn't say, said you got to use it for public benefit. You got to show us your plan of how you're going to do that. It didn't say, but giving the land to the pre-condemnation owners can be part of it. When the legislature created the land use plan in 1996, it required that excess lands be returned to, here we go again, original landowners, yeah. Essentially defining the return as an economic benefit that met the requirements of public benefit use under federal law, according to Brooks. The federal government could have withheld the transfer of property if it disagreed, but the property was transferred anyway, and the general consensus is that the federal government won't try to retake the land or invalidate the transfers made under U.S. Law 103, Brooks said. So it's kind of like what we're saying here is that because the U.S. government let the land go, it acquiesced in giving it back to the pre-condemnation owners. That's the implication.
Use it or lose it.
Yeah. A few years later, U.S. Law 106 would incorporate the definition of public benefit use from 103. That could have included the release of land to original owners as an economic benefit, but U.S. Law 106 cuts that argument off with language excluding transfers for private use other than on a non-discriminatory basis, according to Brooks. Under federal law, distribution of land to a certain class of people, for instance, original landowners, meaning pre-condemnation landowners, would not be fair or equitable to those who are not original landowners. Of course, because you're giving property that I have an interest, you're giving my interest to somebody else. The purpose of this language appears to be to close the loophole used by Guam to address 103 and prevent transfers of property to, once again, original landowners. If Guam were to attempt to transfer property granted under 106 to a pre-condemnation landowner, it would be viewed as a violation of the covenant under which the property was deeded to Guam, according to Brooks. Should the national government decide to enforce covenants in deeds, it appears that U.S. Law 106 makes it so federal government position is stronger than U.S. Law 103. The question is whether the federal government would enforce the covenants, he added. Even if the land could be distributed to pre-condemnation owners, Governor Leon Guerrero has said she doesn't believe the federal government will return the land to Guam in light of military desires to set up missile defense facilities. So, once again, let's go out of our way to build as much false hope to people who own land that was taken by the national government as we can. And as I've pointed out, the national government has paid for that land twice. Once when it was taken and again in 1978. And now people are grousing. They want the national government to give them the land. And of course, they're more than willing to pony up the money that they receive plus interest. No, not at all. They just want the land. And it's really interesting.
What's even more interesting is that this is not a new subject matter. This is not a new issue. It's been defined many times.
Absolutely.
And defined in a way that doesn't favor these misnomered landowners. I think after, what's about maybe 3 decades now? Maybe more?
Yeah.
There would be an understanding that this is not the battle to the hill to die on in this battle.
Absolutely not.
And stop voting in these senators, these official or these candidates that keep promising this.
And these Washington delegates.
That too.
Both Juan Pat and Moylan said, I will fight to get the land back for the original land. And they know they don't have a snowball's chance in hell of doing it.
But we have a history on this island to be abused and to sotto prim.
Mm-hmm.
Look away and keep voting in. It's like Stockholm Syndrome.
It is, yeah.
That's an unpopular opinion, but that's kind of the truth.
Sometimes the old saying is the truth hurts, but the truth is that folks that own land that was taken by the national government have no right to get it back. And they probably have no chance of getting it back because I've mentioned this before. Imagine Jim Moylan on the floor of the House of Representatives saying, you know, there's this property called Eagles Field that the United States condemned, took an eminent domain in 1950, whatever it was, and paid just compensation for. And now the Air Force, we want the Air Force to give that to the government of Guam so we can give it to the pre-condemnation owners. Why do you want to give it to the pre-condemnation owners? Oh, because they really want it back. And they're really sad that they can't go back and live on the land where Granny and Grandpa, you know, a lot of really good sentimental arguments, right? And that's all.
And I'll even put out, if someone thinks that self-determination or independence is going to solve this problem, they're in for a bigger ride.
Really?
Because that was not going to get solved with this type of hokiness.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. Harvey Agnew points out that pre-Spanish Chamorros have a concept of land ownership, or was the land all communally held? Well, certainly pre-Hispanic Chamorros didn't. And Elwin Quitano says that even during the Spanish regime, the Spanish did not recognize title in individuals, that all land was held in the name of the crown, and the crown would license or permit people, kind of on a feudal system, to go out and crop the land and share the crop with the Spanish crown. So this whole building is built on a very shaky foundation, a foundation of emotion rather than law or reason. Okay, next I want to go to, I don't have time. Next item on the card, this is a real doozers. Chamorros versus Chukis.
This is the item that was brought up on Thursday?
That's right.
Yeah, by a caller.
Yeah, so I've got a pretty thorough treatment of it. So what was that guy's name?
Man, if I could only, I have it in the notes.
Yeah.
We'll come up with it tomorrow because I know to come back to this.
If he's listening, make sure you're listening tomorrow because I'll probably make this first on the card. And it really runs head into this, give the land back to the original owners, giving property away, etc. So.
And election day promises.
And election day promises, right. But now it's time for me to say goodbye to our president. So I got to say, Let's go, Brandon.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
University on lockdown. I'm Laura Cantor, Fox News. The University of Virginia in Charlottesville responding to reports of a shooting early Monday. Fox's Jackie Ibanez has more.
The University of Virginia is on lockdown at this hour following reports of an on-campus shooting. That's according to tweets from university police. According to police, the suspect is still on the run and is considered armed and dangerous. It's unclear if there are any injuries or deaths at this time. People on campus grounds are urged to shelter in place.
UVA Emergency Management's Twitter account has established an emergency hotline for people to call for information. President Biden is in Indonesia for the G20 summit, where he will meet with China's President Xi Jinping on Monday. Fox's Jackie Heinrich reports from Bali.
The White House is setting low expectations for Biden's first meeting with his Chinese counterpart as president, striking out deliverables and framing goals around managing a contentious relationship after Xi tightened his grip on power with an unprecedented third term, and also Biden's critics have pushed for a hard line with President Xi. In Cambodia, Biden called out Beijing's grab for regional dominance without naming names, offering a full-throated commitment to Southeast Asian nations.
The president's last summit of the trip will be the meeting of the G20 leaders. They will discuss glacial economics and plan to increase pressure on Putin, who won't be in attendance. A mid-air collision between two military aircraft at a Dallas air show Saturday leaves 6 people dead. Michael Graham of the NTSB says a full investigation is underway.
We are on scene to gather perishable evidence. Our team methodically and systematically reviews all evidence and considers all potential factors to determine the probable cause.
Graham says a full investigation could take up to 12 to 18 months before a final report is released. No one on the ground was injured. America is listening to Fox News.